it's Gil Alexander. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Book, on location live from Beau Rivage here in Biloxi, Mississippi. It's our third time here this year. We love coming here. Vice President Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International, Jay Rude, could not be with us. Some travel things. It's the wintertime, weather, but ably filling in the manager here at the Sportsbook at Beau Rivage, Will Hall, joining us once again. Thanks for joining us, Will.
You bet. And as we say here in the South, welcome, y'all.
Well, you feel very welcome. Thanks for having us.
You bet.
This is a great time of year because SEC teams have not even started bowl season. Michigan's going to play Florida on Saturday the 29th. LSU, obviously, on New Year's Day. Georgia. What is the scene going to be like here at the Sportsbook for those games?
It's going to be loud and interesting, and LSU and Alabama, those were our two big draws all year.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that they're bowling and Alabama's Super Bowling should be very interesting.
Well, speaking of the Super Bowling, you're referring to the College Football National Championship semis, the first of which is Saturday. Clemson and Notre Dame history. The first two times two undefeated teams have faced each other in a national semi. Clemson 13-0, Notre Dame 12-0. And the first time a team outside of the Power 5, Notre Dame, is playing in a national semi. Clemson favored by 13. The total's 56. This is up from 11.5. Let me make the case for Notre Dame here. South Carolina, Syracuse, Texas A&M, they actually got to Clemson, offensively speaking. They got to Clemson's defense. Clemson's defense, third in college football in sacks, second in terms of tackles for a loss. But there's no Dexter Lawrence here from the suspension. Might Notre Dame, given all this time to prepare, might they actually, I'm not saying win it outright, but in your opinion, have a good shot at covering?
I think they have a great shot at covering. I think the number's way too big.
Yeah.
And also, Clemson simply did not play anyone at all. They played one ranked team, and that was Texas A&M, and that was a 2-point win. So I really like Notre Dame in this spot. I thought they played a great schedule. They're playing good. They're finishing the games like they should. Great spot, like the Irish.
And as you said, Texas A&M really the only tough game, if you will, for Clemson, 28-26 on the road. And the other way to sort of look at it for Clemson is all these other teams have a signature win, right? Notre Dame beat Michigan. Alabama beat not only Georgia, but also LSU. You could even say Oklahoma beat Texas twice, if we want to consider that. Clemson's win is that Texas A&M game, I guess, but they haven't had that signature win. So you think at 13, we're doing this just a couple days before game time, you think it stays at 13? You think it gets to 14? How do you think the money goes?
I think it goes down. I just think it's kind of a big number. And I've got a little extra incentive for this game because I'm a huge South Carolina Gamecock fan. And I've had enough of Dabo and the Evil Empire.
Yes.
So, I'm looking just for something different. But
it'll be very interesting. Clemson, 13-point favorite. Again, the total at 56. The first of the two back-to-back national semis on Saturday. Back on Behind the Book, live from Beau Rivage in Biloxi, here on the Gulf Coast. Gil Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. And Will Hall, manager here at the Beau Rivage Sportsbook, sitting in for Jay Rude, Vice President, Race and Sports, MGM Resorts International. Jay, typically the star of this show, a little weather bound, if you will, today. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, happy to be here. Happy to have you all with us.
Well, I appreciate all the noise in the background is because bowl games are actually going on right now, so everybody's in there betting, and we're trying to not distract them. I think they're okay making all their bets over here. You mentioned something, Will, in the first segment about Alabama being a huge draw. One would assume that they're here in Mississippi that maybe LSU would be the most popular team, but Alabama just as popular?
No, LSU does get the slight edge as far as that goes. But Alabama's a close second. Close second.
Yeah.
And that was a wild game here, LSU, Alabama. It was literally like back and forth to each side of the room for each team. So it was definitely a way of life down here in the South.
And there wasn't much for LSU fans to be too happy about that day. As it is now, national semi, Alabama 14-point favorites against Oklahoma on Saturday night. You know how I made the case for Notre Dame in the previous game? It's kind of hard to make a case for Oklahoma here. I get it. The offense is amazing behind Kyler Murray. Only Army held Oklahoma to fewer than 37 points in any game, and that's because Army holds the ball all day long. But on the other side of the ball, Oklahoma gave up nearly 3,800 yards of offense this year. Alabama completes their passes at a 68% rate, nearly 11 yards plus per pass attempt for Alabama. And then you think about teams that have run on Oklahoma. Army, 368 yards rushing against Oklahoma, 338, excuse me. Kansas will, 349 yards rushing. It would seem to be the case that there is no chance that Oklahoma can get Alabama off the field at any point.
I stole your playbook because I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Again, two barometers for me. Army, if they can control the ball, what's Alabama's run game going to do? I know Army's good, but there's still no Alabama up front. And also Texas, that Oklahoma dropped that game to Texas too. That's a little concern to me. Alabama really was flawless other than they came back from 14 down to beat Georgia. Mm-hmm. Other than that,
right.
I just think they're too much football team.
You know, and I guess now I'm thinking, okay, what could I say? Well, you brought up Georgia. Jake Fromm almost beat Alabama twice. Obviously, we've seen in the past Deshaun Watson in Clemson's heyday playing very well against Alabama. Even go back as far as Johnny Manziel. When there was a lot of hype, Johnny Manziel played well against Alabama. If there is a quarterback that can perform against Alabama, it certainly is Heisman Trophy award-winning Kyler Murray. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do. I actually think, too, there's going to be a little revenge factor for Alabama because I think they wanted their quarterback to be hoisted the Heisman.
There is that.
So I think there's a little underlining incentive there.
Yeah. Total here is astronomical, 78.
Wow.
This just keeps going up, you think?
I can't believe it's this high. So I couldn't bet over that for any amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
but will bettors bet over?
They might, because you know the bettors, they love to bet the overs.
They love overs. We're wired as bettors to love favorites and overs. I think this keeps going up. Alabama by 14, 78. You asked me who I'm betting. I'm betting Bama, and with a bit of a swallow, a little hope, I'm going to bet Clemson and lay the points too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm Bama and under.
Bama and under. Okay. National Championship semis on Saturday. We're at the Beau Rivage here in Biloxi, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app from Beau Rivage in Biloxi. Maybe our favorite single place that we've come to this year.
It's definitely my favorite place.
I'm gonna delete the word maybe. I think it is our favorite place.
All right.
You're in for Jay. We appreciate you being here. NFL Week 17. NFL Week 17 is very squirrely. And for bettors, even more squirrely, if I could use that word. Minnesota, let's take one example. Minnesota, 4.5-point favorites, hosting the Chicago Bears, Week 17. Totals at 40.5. Here's the issue with this game. Now, the way that the scheduling works, it used to be where bettors could do something called correlated parlays, where an early game could impact the result of a later game. So if Team A later needed a certain result in the previous game, I could then correlate what I think happens in game one with then they don't need to play, for instance, in game two, so I'll bet the other team. There's a way to sort of manipulate that. The way that the NFL has it now, these games are so concurrent that those opportunities largely don't exist. And this game specifically is interesting because Minnesota, they need to win to get in the playoffs. That's their task. Chicago, though, they're in the 3rd seed right now. That's their position. If they win and the Rams lose, they would have the number 2 seed in the NFC and a bye in the first round. But they also know, while it's happening simultaneously, that the Rams are hosting a team where they're favored by 10 points, the San Francisco 49ers. So probably the Rams are going to win that game. The Bears are going to think that. The issue then is that the Bears will still end up as the 3rd seed and then perhaps have to play this very same Vikings team next week, albeit in Chicago. So then there's no incentive for them to show anything or do anything. It's very tough to handicap something like that. Minnesota favored by 4.5. Do you get a lot of action on games like this? Do you notice any difference because of these quirks?
We do, and I love your word, squirrely, because that's exactly what it is. You just really don't know, and you're kind of like chasing your tail almost, trying to figure out which way to go on some of these games. So I think it's the trickiest week of the year as far as booking games.
For me, as a bettor, I probably, if forced to bet this, I'd bet the Vikings, because I think the Bears probably lay down because of both reasons. One, they think the Rams are going to win anyway, so they'll end up with a third seed, and then you got to play the Vikings again next week. And the Vikings have every incentive to win this game. So I think if you bet it, you absolutely bet the Vikings and only the Vikings. I see no justification for anyone on the Bears here taking the points.
Yeah, I agree with you there also, too. And Minnesota has been playing a little better as of late. They got off to a flat start last week. We're down 9-0 early, but really came back and
the Hail Mary to Kyle Rudolph changed it all.
That did it.
Kirk Cousins trying to get the Vikings to the playoffs in his first of 3 seasons on a contract anyway with the Minnesota Vikings. A win and the Vikings are in, a loss and an Eagles win, and the Vikings are out. But again, for all the reasons stated, very strange game. You got to lean to the Viking side, I believe, with the Bears probably having no incentive to play whatsoever. One of many interesting Week 17 games in the NFL. We'll get to more right here from Beau Rivage in Biloxi, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book, it's Gil Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app, live from Beau Rivage in Biloxi, where the weather, is just crazy outside. The Biloxi Shuckers rained out next door.
Yeah,
they should really put a tarp over that infield, by the way, at MGM Park. Week 17 of the NFL continues. Baltimore hosting the Cleveland Browns. Now, this is also part of the late game group of games in the NFL this weekend. Baltimore's favored by 6. The total's 41. Baltimore wins, they win the AFC North. In the process, they could all but eliminate almost completely the Steelers. There would be another way for the Steelers to get in if the Steelers won their game and then the Titans and Colts tie later. We'll talk about that. But basically, for all intents and purposes, Ravens win here. They're absolutely the winners of the division, and they would knock out the Steelers. However, if they lose, they could be out of the playoffs entirely. They win, there's also a scenario, not only do they win their division, they get the number 2 seed. So the AFC is completely jumbled. Meanwhile, the Steelers, who are playing at the same time, are hoping the Browns can upset the Ravens, and the Browns are playing well, 7-1. Just 6-point dogs here. Lamar Jackson, 5-1 as a starter. What kind of action you get for a game like this?
Well, it's pretty balanced, actually, because I think there's opinions on both sides. And Cleveland has been playing better, but like you say, Baltimore's got a chance to kind of control what their future is. So I think it's going to be a good game. I actually think Cleveland will be competitive, but I see the Ravens winning outright.
I mean, I think the interesting thing about these games is that one of these teams, we're just assuming, Seattle's going to beat Arizona, the Rams are going to beat the Niners, Ravens will beat the Reds. One of these teams is not going to do it. Right? They're not all going to win. I wonder if it's this one. And here's the other thing, though, about the Ravens. You recall last year, the Ravens were in this position. They had about a 99% win probability late in their game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then Andy Dalton completed that 4th and 12. And the Bengals, in just dramatic fashion, eliminated the Ravens, and that's why Dalton is a huge hero in Buffalo.
Right.
Because they got the Bills in. So the Ravens they have that very clear in their memory. They're not going to forget that when they play this game.
But they're also capable of that too, which I have a little bit of concern. And I think Cleveland is like, okay, we're off the doormat now.
Yeah.
We're going to play you. We're going to play you hard. So, and I think they got to be feeling good about their season. I think they're going to go out fighting.
I think you're right. I would take the points here.
I would too.
Yeah. At the very least, I would take the points here. Baker Mayfield, chip on his shoulder in many ways, and I think he feels the moment here. Lamar Jackson, does he have that bad game in him? Many bettors feel that he does. Could this be on the biggest stage of them all? We'll see. Ravens could clinch a playoff berth, clinch their division, get to the number 2 seed, fall all the way out of the playoffs. It's amazing in Week 17. It is Behind the Book once again from Beau Rivage in Biloxi, Gil Alexander from VSiN, Will Hall manager here at the Beau Rivage Sportsbook, in for Jay Rude, VP of Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International. This was our first year, obviously your first football season at the Sportsbook here at Beau Rivage. Was it everything you imagined and more? Like, could you have imagined just how fun and successful this was? Did it exceed expectations?
Yeah, it did, but it was hard for me to set any because new state, new game in town, new to the property, new to everything. So really was kind of not sure how to gauge it. But one thing I know in life is that SEC fans, football is like their blood.
Yes.
So, and it really came through strong and hard here, and they love it.
Can imagine what it's been like all year. Obviously, this weekend's going to be bigger than ever. Not only the two national semis, but obviously LSU playing the next 2 or 3 days later against UCF. Let's do one more NFL game here, Will, which is the night game, the standalone game between the Titans and the Colts. Colts are favored by 3 in this game. Either team wins, they're in. You lose, you're out. It's that simple. Playoff game. There is one caveat to that. The Texans play earlier in the day. They're hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Blake Bortles is coming back to start for the Jaguars in this game. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, really, Blake Bortles? I don't know, though. Blake Bortles in a one-shot game might be a better option than Cody Kessler. Point being that if Houston somehow loses that game early to Jacksonville, then this game between the Colts and Titans becomes a game for the AFC South title in that respect. So, Colts by 3. Marcus Mariota practicing this week, practicing as late as Thursday. He's going to do everything he can to play in this game.
Yeah.
For the Titans.
I got a big lean here. I like the Colts.
I do too.
They just absolutely crushed Tennessee early in the year. And, I always, it's hard to beat a team twice. And they didn't beat them. They stepped on them. I think they beat them 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
So I have to go with the Colts. And they are kind of a surprise team this year. I'm so impressed with Andrew Luck and what he's done because pretty much I'd stuck a fork in him. I thought maybe he was possibly done. So
I think a lot of people did. I don't think you're alone in that.
Yeah.
People wondered about Andrew Luck's career. Colts on the doorstep of a playoff spot and maybe, just maybe, the AFC South title if the Texans earlier in the day stumble against Jacksonville. By the way, the Texans favored by 7 in that game. Colts by 3 here with the total at 43.5. Should be an amazing weekend. The best. Does it get better than this? College football semifinals on a Saturday, and then week 17, the squirreliness, as we called it, of the NFL. Obviously, the NFL playoffs on the horizon as well. Should be fun.
And we got Houdat, too, who's playing great ball.
That's right.
So, and that's our Sunday filler.
Yeah.
They love the Saints.
The Saints who have nothing to play for because they have the number 1 seed clinched in the NFC playoffs, but you have a whole month of perhaps home games, at least the divisional round and the championship round of the Saints coming up as well.
Right, and I think the Beau is like the junior Superdome.
Yes.
Because they love the Saints here.
It really is, if you haven't been, and I don't say this just because you're here, Will, a beautiful sports book. I sort of relate it, for those who have been to Las Vegas, sort of like the Aria Sportsbook in terms of its living room feel. I hope you guys don't ever change it with too many renovations.
Yeah, I love it too. I thought they did such a great job.
Yeah.
And for all you Auburn fans out there, and the used to be a guy named Bo Jackson.
I've heard of him.
Well, the Bo knows sports books because they did a great job here. So
The Beau. Beau Rivage in Biloxi, beautiful property. For Will Hall, in for Jay Ruth. Thank you, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you taking time out of your day. Skill Alexander, thanks for watching Behind the Book. Good luck with all your bets this weekend. It's all brought to you by the Play MGM app. And remember, if you're at a MGM property, use the app, save the lines. It'll be that much easier.